I certainly haven't seen plates like this before, and probably neither have you. These are DefiPlates. A DefiPlate is a creative take on a 45-pound weight plate with a unique design and purpose to specifically not be round. Because of this, you can add a whole new dimension of variety to your existing barbell training, or even use it as a standalone accessory for a lot of creative movements. Due to its trapezoid shape, this thing is specifically built to introduce instability or a deficit into your lifts, whether you're using it for deadlifts, benching, squatting, or even in a strongman implementation for carries and more. There's definitely some serious appeal here for lifters who want to challenge their stability, improve their bar path, and add some real variety to their training with movements you literally cannot do with standard circular plates. However, in my mind, this is clearly designed for experienced lifters or people who have a very specific use case. There's some safety and cost considerations, so it very well could be overkill for home gym owners who are just looking to pick things up and set things down. So let's check it out. Hey guys, this is Michael with the Jungle Gym Reviews. Today we're reviewing the DefiPlate. This is a unique take on a 45-pound weight plate. It's clearly a trapezoidal weight plate with different cutouts for a bar and what essentially is grip and or your hands for a variety of different movements. We're going to kind of talk about some of the use cases here and what I like to use it for and why this plate. But basically, no, the whole premise of this is two things. It's not meant to be circular, so that it actually is more of like a lever left to right, balancing, introducing instability into certain movements. And then two, specifically for use as a deficit plate, because as you can see here, when you start from the ground, the bar is about 5 inches lower. Now, before I get into the video, if you could quickly hit that subscribe button below if you haven't already, it's going to continue to help us grow the channel, and make sure you get notified when we post our 2 times a week reviews throughout the rest of 2025. And if you're interested in purchasing this after the review, check out that link in the description below. So first and foremost, I want to say this thing is obviously a creative take on a weight plate, but there's a couple cool things about it. You'll actually see on the top here, USA. This thing is both made in Michigan, cast and finished, powder coated, sandblasted, all that good stuff. So it is a made in USA product. That's not something I've necessarily, a hill I'm willing to die on, but it is cool to support local businesses. I'm actually located in Michigan as well, and I connected with Jake, the owner / creator of DefiPlate at Home Gym Con this year, and he wanted to have me borrow a pair of these for the review. I say borrow because first and foremost, I want to mention price. Obviously this thing's made in USA. Obviously this thing is novel. The biggest kind of downside with these plates, from what I've noticed so far, is the price. They are $600 for a set of used plates, $800 for a set of new plates, and that's not including standard shipping, which ends up being somewhere around $100. If you buy in bulk, like sets of 10, he can work with you on pricing discounts and stuff like that. But just know these are expensive plates, and they're expensive because of how they're made, but they're expensive because of what exactly they're made for and the fact they're made in small batches. So the main premise behind this, as I mentioned, is deficits. When you put this thing on the floor compared to a normal weight plate, you can pretty quickly see it's a little bit lower, and it essentially creates, like I said, a deficit due to where the bar mounts in this hole. Besides the fact that it has the hole for the bar here, it also has these, which are meant exactly for this, to be handles. So whether that's for, carrying it like I'm carrying it now, whether that's for things like I've actually found I really like kind of doing these like upright row style. I've even seen this advertised to do like some like bent over rows from the ground like this. I mean, essentially this plate is made to be a versatility / variety weight plate for exactly that reason. It has some very specific uses, but I've even found if you want to try to do some like curls with it, you can do curls. I've kind of dangerously found ways to do, like a standing overhead press. So really you can kind of get creative because it does have these grip plates. But then the other part in this is the shape creates this gravitational pull downwards. So the plate always wants to tilt one end down, so you have to fight a little bit against gravity. You'll see when we put it on something like this here, if you kind of tilt one side, you'll see it start to be a little bit of a lever. Now, this is one of the cool things I really like about this, and I didn't expect, honestly, to like it that much. Things like bench press, when you start to do this, it actually just forces the weight to be like a little more centered over the bar, I guess, if that makes sense. I'm sorry if I don't articulate that correctly, but basically it just forces you to focus on the stability, kind of like if you've ever used like a bamboo bar, but that's more of just like I would say like a small muscle stability, and this is truly like a front to back. How is your bar path according to the gravitational down force of this unevenly weighted trapezoid weight plate? So besides that, the other thing again is the deficit. 2 reasons. One, for the standard low height. One thing I did also hear from Jake was that this just doesn't allow you to kind of, let's say, cheat when you do like max effort, like single 1 rep max deadlifts, because you can't actually roll the bar back and use that little bit of weight plate momentum to get it off the ground. That and the fact it is a deficit just makes it harder. Plus, then you can do movements that otherwise you couldn't really do with a weight plate without like a step-up platform. So essentially this is almost the equivalent of using a step-up platform for things like RDLs, for things like bent over rows, where you will hit the weight plate on the ground. You know, if you're doing bent over rows with a 45-pound plate and you want to do it like with your torso pretty low towards the floor, right here I would be essentially hitting the floor with the weight plate. So I have 2 options: either elevate my feet, or in this case, use a DefiPlate to get a little more range of motion. Romanian deadlifts, regular traditional deadlifts, just starting at a lower fixed point, you name it. I've even seen in their advertising videos using these for like block pulls or different type of strongman movements, like carry movements, both from a deficit perspective and again from the instability. So I think there's just a lot of creative ways you can use something like this in home gyms. Overall, I probably wouldn't recommend this for most home gym owners unless you have a very specific need and use case, strictly because of the price. If this thing were the exact same price as a pair of 45s, absolute no-brainer. I would say go buy a pair of these. And I actually talked to Jake. I said, hey, I'd love to buy a pair of these. Can I buy, you know, one of these used pair that you lent to me for the review? He's like, yeah, they're $600. Man, that's a really hard pill to swallow, because I can do a lot of things and or get a lot of attachments or other types of equipment for $600. I don't know that me in this more hypertrophy, bodybuilding, stable, training oriented environment really have enough of a use case to spend $600 on 1 pair of weight plates. I found, again, 3 or 4 movements I really particularly like to use them for. But to me, I don't know that I can justify the cost. So I assume a lot of other home gym owners are going to have that exact same problem with this. If he can find a way to kind of scale as he grows, do a little more mass manufacturing, even if that's import, to get the price down, I think, like I said, this is a no-brainer. That really is the only major downside for me. Now, the other 2 things I want you to note, if you do decide to go this way, is that because it is so long, at about 39 inches, it does take up a lot of space when you store it. If you want to put it on a traditional weight plate holder, you're definitely gonna take up more side-to-side space than a normal, 45 or similar weight plate. So the other thing you'll see here when I show some clips of me benching, you actually have to be aware of how far it goes back, because for example, if I tried to rack this here on this rack, because I only have a 16-inch rack, I'm gonna hit my weight plate storage in the back before I can even make it to where the J-cups go. So that would be, again, the major considerations, is because it has so much left to right width, you need to find a good place to store it. But because it does stand and is more boxy and square, I find personally, I either like to stand it up against the wall, double stack them, and it takes essentially no space here. So because it has grip, because it's flat, it's not gonna roll. I'm not worried about it running away, hitting my kids, etc. Or you can even kind of lay it flat like this and it doesn't even take up too much space that way as well. So a few considerations for those who are interested. From what I understand, most of the people buying these right now, again, are not home gym owners, but strong men or people who have a very specific reason. They want the grips, they want to train that instability, and overall, they're just looking for more fun, more variety, or like, let's say, very sports specific style of training. So guys, that's pretty much it for today's review of the DefiPlate and DefiPlates. As always, if you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. I'll be happy to answer or at least try. Thanks for tuning in to Jungle Gym Reviews. We'll see you next time. Take it easy. Peace.